Hello. Those of you who were at the last Dyalog conference will remember me. Otherwise, I'm Fiona. I've been working with Dyalog for 1.5 years now as documentation manager. What I am going to go over today are two main topics. I'm going to go over the actual traditional documentation that we produce, but also the social media that has kicked into life recently, especially with the addition of Nadine to Team Dyalog. So as far as documentation is concerned, I will first of all cover my long-term plans and then go into the more immediate future so I can explain where I think the documentation is going in 10 years' time, which is, I think it'll take me that long to read how much we've got already, and my immediate plans, and that is where you come in. I have my immediate plans, but if you have specific needs, things you would like to see, those immediate plans can include that. As far as social media is concerned, I will cover why we're doing what we're doing, and then I will cover how we're doing it. And in this place, you are even more involved. We really need you to join us in making the social media strategy a success. It's not something we can just do on our own. So this will be familiar to those who were at our meeting last year. Just my long-term goals for the documentation. The first thing I thought when starting it, I looked at all the different documents that there are, and they looked like they've been written by different people. They use different styles, different templates, and I want to make them more cohesive. Now that may not seem particularly important to some people, but to people who have OCDs like mine, it's absolutely vital. A more comprehensive coverage. At the moment, the documentation and the documentation that existed before I started is very technical, it's very good, but there are gaps. And that's because it's impossible for the team, as they're doing it, and who understand all the software already, to realise that there are inbuilt assumptions, to realise that there are parts that people who haven't actually developed the product might not automatically know. So more comprehensive coverage. Standardising on terminology, and this is where my OCD's kicked in again. I want the same piece of functionality to be described using the same terms every time it's mentioned. So something sorry, could you mind waiting till the end for questions? Thank you. Something I'm putting together at the moment with help from many people in Team Dyalog is a glossary. And once that glossary has been approved and finalised, we will then go through the documentation and make sure that's the same thing is referred to in the same way in every single place, and then I'll be happy. More documents for beginners. Bernard's book is fantastic. It is the way in. Our documentation set contains nothing as it stands for beginners. Everything already assumes a certain amount of knowledge. So coming in as somebody who knew no APL, my programming background is Pascal and Fortran, so coming in that position, I didn't know where to start. There was no document that said, read me first. You're not a schoolgirl. You don't need something that's aimed at that level. It can be aimed at somebody who is capable and might understand programming, but has never come across APL. So something along those lines, just as a way into the rest of the documentation. And an improved range of deliverable formats. So at the moment, you can buy the major releases on Lulu as printed books. We release PDFs, we have online help. What if you want your tablet propped up by your computer screen so you can have the language reference guide open, just tap through, use John's gestures to just find various features that you want to read about while you're coding on your main screen? At the moment, you can only do that through a PDF. Now, ideally, EPUB functionality will include APL fonts in the near future. It's something I've written to them and I've requested. We can't do it at the moment. Unfortunately, the font that we also love is not supported and comes out blank, which is not very useful when giving examples. So in the meantime, I'm open to suggestions, but I'm afraid the tablets, the reading things on phones is not yet feasible, but I am pushing to make it so. And as soon as the technology is there, I will be going in that direction as well. In the shorter term, This is what Morten was mentioning in his speech earlier. We do need additional documentation for some of these wonderful new features that have come in at 14.0, especially DFS and RIDE. I think RIDE, there is currently a placeholder document that's been written that says, install it this way. But we need a more comprehensive document for that. And also with DFS, which Richard is going to be speaking about on Thursday. Yes, Thursday. Does need documenting. You can't really guess it. So that will need considerable work. And then the existing documentation on my server is currently for my server 2. My server 3, Brian has worked very hard on, and there are a lot of changes, so that needs completely reworked. So my short-term plans, when we get home from this and I get some sleep, will be to work on those things specifically. Now, if there are any gaps in that, if there are things that you're thinking, hang on, what about this, please tell me. Because it's only by your feedback and you telling me, well, I'm a user and I would rather you spent all your time concentrating on getting more examples in the language guide. It's only if you tell me that I know. So I am always open to suggestions there. Right, social media strategy. Social media has become important in a way that, well, I certainly had no idea about a couple of years ago. And it's through Nadine joining us that we've put together a proper strategy that covers all the different social media that we think are important. It's no longer enough just to release a product. You have to say, we've released it, you can read about it here, look, hey, well, aren't we wonderful? And in order to do that, we need to get out the message to as many people as possible. Now, the different social media outlets all have different audiences. So the social media channels that we are using, the first one is Twitter. I don't know how many people on here use the different ones, so I apologise if I go a bit basic here. But Twitter, you're allowed just very short statements. We're expecting people to put out a couple a day and just say, oh, great, I'm at the user meeting, it rocks. There'll be nothing in there that's too technical, should we say, because you've only got 140 characters, but it does support APL characters. Now, you don't have to have a Twitter account to be able to follow a Twitter account. So the Dyalog Twitter account, while it's loading, we have a Twitter account. If anyone wants to tweet about the meeting we're having at the moment, the front of the programme has got the hashtag Dyalog14. And we are posting all the time about it. So I don't have a Twitter account on here. This is just me looking at what has been posted, what we've tweeted, what we've retweeted, other people have posted. So, yes, see, I'm not on Twitter, but I can still access them. So if you have a Twitter account, post while you're here. Make it a hashtag Dyalog14. If it's nice about us, we'll retweet it. So that is one way in which we're trying to, but do follow us on Twitter if you have a Twitter account. We also have a Facebook page. Now, to access this, you will need to have a Facebook account. The things that we post on Facebook are more social. We have lots of photographs. We don't necessarily have the technical stories. Oh, it's going to take a while to load. But we have, we put photographs up there. We put up things that you might be interested in about us. So there are things here that we think you might want to know, but they are not technical stories. Yes, definitely important that the spillage from the kettle resembled a duck. So the things that go on there you might want to know, they won't necessarily keep you up to date with things like the issues that Morten brought up in his talk this morning. They won't tell you exactly what we're planning for 14.1, but they are the human side of Dyalog. The next one is LinkedIn. This is very much more a business-to-business outlet. The postings on LinkedIn are not necessarily technical themselves, but they are business-related. So on here, we might put about Morten's keynote speech. So we have postings on here, articles written by Dyalog people that went into Vector, the fact that we'd published the timetable for this, when the student competition winners were announced. So it's not as much the human side as Facebook was. This is very much more business to business. But again, if you follow us on that one, and we currently have, I think, 43 followers, then we can build up that whole thing. You can tell us the sort of news that you think is relevant, and we can, just by liking it, and we can see the stories that people want to be told about on that particular medium. The blog. Now, this started out as just Morton's blog, but has now progressed, and while we are here, we're having postcards from Dyalog. I don't know if anyone has been reading these. Each day we are posting about that particular day, what's happened, what things might be of interest to other people. But in the blog you can search for specific categories. So if you're only interested in Dyalog on the Raspberry Pi, go there, see what's there. If you think, oh, well, that's what's been written about Dyalog on the Raspberry Pi, but wouldn't it be cool if it did this? Comment on it. We do read them. So the blog is now written by everyone within Dyalog, but all these different categories, and we can add further ones, they will be influenced by you and your feedback. This is available directly from the website. I'll show you that in a minute. And then YouTube. Now, Gitta mentioned this earlier. The reason there are two is we have two different YouTube channels. One is specifically for user meeting videos. Every presentation given at the user meeting since 2008, I think, has been videoed, and they are being uploaded to YouTube. They can all be revisited. On the website, we have links to all of them as well, but there is a specific YouTube channel for that. And there is another one that has John Scholes' videos, like The Game of Life that was mentioned earlier, his recent depth-first search one, which isn't as easy to say as it should be, which is also proving really popular, already over 1,000 hits on that one. So these two different YouTube channels are very much worth going and looking at. And again, if there is something that you feel would lend itself well to a video, maybe there's something in the documentation and you think, oh, well, I'd actually quite like to see that happen. It's not a problem to make a video on it, so just tell us. The website, this is obviously the main repository that we have for telling you about things. So all these different things on here, quite often the main story will be on the website, and things like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn will point to it, just so that you know that it's been added and can then go and read about it. But on the front page of the website is the Twitter feed again. So if you don't have a Twitter account and you don't even want to go and click on the link or anything, you can read it all on there. And we have a calendar on there of all events that are upcoming. So at the moment, the big banner image has been replaced with the postcard, and we have the three big buttons here for the three things that we think most people will be wanting to know about at the moment, and then the Twitter feed down the side, and the video of the moment, which is John Scholes' depth first search one. The blog and everything are accessible from here. Every single page on the website has the social media links up at the top. So you can click on these ones and it will take you direct to the Twitter feed or the blog. Facebook and LinkedIn, you do have to have an account to be able to access them. Other things that we contribute to that aren't necessarily mentioned, we don't have our own pages on, but we contribute as Dyalog, are groups like Lambda the Ultimate and Complang APL and the APL group on LinkedIn. So if anyone reads those, they will see us contributing as Dyalog. We also, you will know, we email everyone who's registered with us. There is the newsletter that comes out. We produce papers and additional videos, seminars and things. And we also present at external conferences. And all of that information is on the website. You can go there and see it. And whenever anything like that happens, we also post it to the social media. So if you do follow us on one of these social media platforms, you will always know when we update the website with something new. But are there any other social media channels we should be using? Do people here use Google Plus groups or anything like that? If there is something that we've missed out that you think there's a real market here, if you know that your students all use some particular social media strategy area that we're not covering, and you think, well, hang on, everyone who's under 20 knows about this, why aren't you doing it? Then let us know and we can look into it. So everything I've said, your input is absolutely vital. It's all for you. There's no point producing documentation if nobody reads it. There's no point tweeting 20 times a day if there's not a single person picking those up. So let us know. Now, there's different email addresses here, just to be very confusing. If you want to email me directly, Fiona. If you want to email everyone who deals with documentation and can therefore make any changes you want to the docs, then that's docs. These are pretty self-explanatory, to be fair. Now, here is where some of your input and your creative powers can really come to the fore. Where I showed you the website and we had the postcard banner at the top of it, that is specifically for the duration of the user meeting. We normally have a library of images, and each time you go to the website, a different image is shown. So we have two different types. First of all, we have images with bits of APL on. And you'll have seen some of these. Some of these will be coming in the near future. But these are ones that mainly Richard has put together for us, and they're all very cool. But if you have any APL snippets that you think would be really good, and you think we should put them up with a certain image, then let us know. This one here is the second type we put up. And here is where you really do come in. If you think your company has a product written in APL that would make a fantastic screenshot, a bit of advertising for you, something for us that says, yes, this was all done in APL, so it's beneficial to both of us, get in touch. It's not a problem for us to put up an image like this, and we all gain. So have a think what images or anything, really, your products produce that you might want to be showcased. Now, I've got all the individual links on here, so when I publish this presentation, all the presentations, all the slides will be published on the website after the user meeting. The links are all on there so that you can go and access them, but also they are all accessible from the website through the icons at the top anyway. That's the end of the slideshow. But does anyone, I saw a couple of people actually trying to ask me questions during that. Does anyone have comments they want to make on the documentation or the social media side that would be useful? Does anyone have suggestions for the website?
There are 2 Unix guides.
Mm-hmm.
Can it be one guide? Is there any reason you split it up? Or?
Because they will expand. At the moment, the Unix guides are, there's an installation guide and there's a user guide. And those two are very different types of information. So an installation guide, one person might use once, and you install it, you do your initial configuration, and then you never need to look at it again. Whereas you might need your user guide throughout the whole lifetime of using the product. But also, there is more information to go into them, and later on there might be additional guides as well. So that's the reason that they're split.
I appreciate your target to make the terminology more coherent. On the other hand, the problem is that sometimes it's difficult to find stuff because you had the habit to call them in a different way, and then it changed. I propose to you, if there is a way, to try to keep, maybe hidden, all the old version of the terminology, to let old guys or people which has different kind of mental problems and lives in a complete disorder and have this in his mind to find something. Thanks.
The glossary that I'm putting together, and which will hopefully be an online glossary and available through the website, but I have to complete it first, not only has what we are calling the official term, but I'm putting in all the old terms I can find for it and saying, see the official term. So that would be the starting point.
I am an old guy on the glossary committee, so I'm representing your interests.
He's defending you well.
Has anyone heard of Khan Academy? Have you heard of Khan Academy in the online tutorial world?
Yes.
That's a good target,
yes.
I think.
I have looked at that, actually. I haven't got very far with it because I've got to say the documentation as it stands at the moment is a huge job. And I'm reckoning probably 15 or 20 years to actually get it to where I want it to be. So the idea of expanding that to 30 years is not too appealing right now. But yes, I have looked at that. Thank you.
Okay then, I think that's that for you, Fiona.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.